بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله الواحد الأحد الفرد الصمد الذي لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. أحمده سبحانه وتعالى وأثني عليه الخير كله، رفع السماء بغير عمد. وأصلي وأسلم على سيد الخلق نبينا محمد صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وصحبه صلاة دائمة إلى الأبد. أما بعد، أيها الإخوة المؤمنون, dear respected brothers and sisters, let us discuss today the third important principle that we need to adopt in order to come up with the correct practice of Islam, in order to come up with the correct understanding of Islam. But let me just, before starting this new episode, let me just conclude the previous episode that we have been discussing. Let me conclude the previous episode. In the previous episode, we were talking about following the irregular opinions, and we said that every single scholar has some mistakes or have some irregular opinions. Let us not get into the discussion, why did that scholar had that opinion and this scholar had this opinion and so on. No. We admit that Allah Jalla wa Ala did not make any scholar infallible. We admit, as Al-Imam Malik rahimahullah ta'ala said, that every single one, we accept some of his opinions and we reject some of his opinions, except Sahibu hadha al-qabr, means except the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. This is a clear matter. Now, we said that it is not allowed for the person to chase those irregular opinions and to adopt them all at once. Doing so means that the person is leaving Islam. He will end up with a new version of Islam, with a version of Islam that we don't know. And this is not allowed by all scholars. And that's why we mentioned some statements that whoever follow the concessions or the irregular opinions of scholars, then he will become a zindiq, he will become an open sinner or a heretic. Now, some people would like to say, why don't we stick to one school of thought and follow that school of thought all of the time? We would like to confirm that following a school of thought all of the time, in principle, can be okay, provided that whenever you feel that there is another opinion that is stronger than the opinion adopted by your school of thought, you have to move to that opinion. Why? Because of the well-established principle in Sharia that we need to follow Allah Jalla wa Ala and His Messenger, وَأَطِيعُوا اللَّهَ وَأَطِيعُوا الرَّسُولَ, and the ayat that are similar to this. We are not allowed to say to our minds, stop working, don't understand the other opinion. You need to stick to your school of thought. Let me give you an example, a quick example. If a person had a certain illness in his eye, and he went to his doctor, the doctor that he always goes to, and this doctor told him that take this medicine and you will be fine and your eyesight will be fine. Then someone told him, why don't you take another opinion? He went to another doctor and the other doctor told him, be careful, if you take that medicine, you will lose your eyesight. Do you think that this person will say, no, I need to stick to my doctor, my school of thought that I used to follow all of the time, irrespective of the consequences? No, he will never say that. No sane person will say that. Why? Because there is a possibility that he or she will lose the eyesight. What is he or she going to do? They are going to investigate further and to see the opinion that is closer to the haqq, that is closest to what is better in terms of their health. And hence, we need, once we hear another opinion different from our opinion, we need to put an effort in order to know which opinion is closer to the haqq that Allah Jalla wa Ala revealed. We need to know what is the closest opinion to what lead us to Jannah and save us from the hellfire. This is something that we need to put in mind. And that's why I would like to conclude the previous episode by mentioning this important principle. Now, let us move, brothers and sisters, to the third step in the process of understanding Al-Islam. This step is talking about implementation. It is not talking about understanding. But we said the understanding of Al-Islam, in order to come up with the right practice of Al-Islam, in order to come up with the right belief of Al-Islam, should follow these steps. And the third one is to have the right implementation. This step, it is a very practical step. It is not related to theory, but there are some elements related to this step that help us to have the right implementation. Theoretical guidelines help us to have the right implementation. And we would like to conclude this series by mentioning those guidelines that help us to have the right implementation of what we have understood from the authentic sources of Al-Islam. What do we mean by right implementation? We have mentioned throughout the discussion, throughout this series, we have mentioned so many principles that enable us to take those theoretical issues and to implement them correctly. Remember when we came to the issue of the definition of al-ijma', we said that this is the theoretical definition, but from a practical point of view, we need to deal with it like this. So that can be very helpful when we talk about the third step, which is what? To have the correct implementation. Remember when we, in the previous episode, we spoke about how to deal with the differences of the scholars. And we said, if all scholars agreed upon something, then stick to it. This is a practical step. Remember when we talk about the definition of a scholar, and we said that forget about the technical, theoretical definition that has been given in the books, just from a practical point of view, and we gave a solution. That solution is a practical solution. It helps us to understand the third step and to be able to implement it. There are some other elements that need to be explained that enable us to understand the third step better. Of course, we cannot, in this series, in this program, we cannot explain every single issue related every single step. We are giving a summary, a concise summary, and I hope that this concise summary will open doors for you to study further. But this concise summary, I hope that it has provided you with a structure, with the right structure that enables you to understand Al-Islam properly and to further your study of Al-Islam. The third step, to have the right implementation. As I said, we mentioned a few things. Let us mention some other things. Once we say the right implementation, what do we mean by that? You remember the example that we gave some time ago about Brother Yusuf and his wife Salwa, who went to a supermarket to buy some meat. And they found a meat that is not considered to be halal meat, or that has no halal meat tag. And Salwa told her husband that we are not allowed to buy this meat, and her husband said, no, this meat is among the meat of the people of the book, and hence we are allowed to eat it. Salwa said to him, no, we are not allowed to eat it because Allah Jalla wa Ala says in the Quran, حُرِّمَتْ عَلَيْكُمُ الْمَيْتَةِ, and this meat is considered to be mayta. And we said, what is the disagreement taking place between Yusuf and his wife Salwa? Do they agree on the ayah, حُرِّمَتْ عَلَيْكُمُ الْمَيْتَةِ, that mayta made haram for you? Do they disagree on the meaning of the ayah? Where do they disagree? We said that they disagree on what? On the implementation of the ayah. Means that they agree that this ayah is an authentic source, which is an ayah from the Quran. They agreed on the meaning of this ayah, that the dead flesh is haram, we are not allowed to eat it. but they disagree that this meat that they have seen in the supermarket is the maita mentioned in this ayah, and hence they disagree on the practice. Let us stop for a break and we will continue inshallah after the break. Assalamu alaikum. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah wa salatu wa salamu ala Rasulillah. Just before the break, we gave the example of Brother Yusuf and his wife disagreeing on an implementation of a hukum, an implementation or the implementation of the understanding of an authentic source. This is an example. So when they disagree on this, they cannot accuse each other of opposing the Quran. Be careful, brothers and sisters. Many people, many young people are falling into this deception. They accuse each other in similar situations of opposing Al-Quran. No, they are not opposing Al-Quran. What they are opposing it, the other party understanding of the implementation of the ruling, not the evidence itself. Let me give you another example. The issue of difficulty, the issue of hardship. The issue of hardship, the scholar said that, for example, if you wake up to pray Fajr and then the heating is not working, so you have very cold water. They said that if it is really difficult for you, if it is hard for you, or it might lead you to illness, to make wudu using this water, then you are allowed to do tayammum. They did not tell us what does hardship exactly mean. It is up to me, it is up to you, it is up to the person facing the situation to implement this understanding on his circumstance. Is the matter clear? I think it is clear. So the implementation of the principle of hardship lies with those who are facing the hardship. They can benefit from the scholars in order to see whether this is really hardship or not. But the first person to judge whether this is a hardship or not is the person who is facing the situation. He knows his situation. Some people, they are strong, so they can use cold water to make wudu, they can use cold water to make ghusl even. So for them, we don't say that it is allowed for you to use tayammum, not to use water, because there is a hardship. But for a weak or a sick person, if he uses a little bit cold water, he might become more sick. It might damage his health. So for this person, we say that you are allowed under the principle of hardship to move from the commandment of wudu to the replacement of wudu, which is at tayammum. Let me give you the third example. You know, Allah Jalla wa Ala commanded the husband to maintain his wife, and Allah Jalla wa Ala commanded the man to maintain his children. Maintenance, financial maintenance, is obligatory upon the husband towards his wife. But did Allah Jalla wa Ala say you have to give her 1,000 rupees or $1,000 or $10,000 or 10,000 rupees? No, Allah Jalla wa Ala did not specify a specific amount. So Allah Jalla wa Ala left it open for different people to implement the nafaqah, the maintenance, according to their circumstances. So in certain circumstances, it is not 1,000 rupees is not enough. You have to have 10,000 rupees. So we need to say that the maintenance that Allah Jalla wa Ala commanded us to have is to maintain your wife by 10,000 rupees. If in certain other circumstances 100 rupees is enough, then we say the maintenance is 100 rupees. It differs from one situation to another situation. Based on what? Based on the custom, based on other factors. Which means that the custom plays a role in the implementation of the hukum on the situation. Yes, custom, al-urf, the norms of people. The norms of people include the level of this wife, means she came from a rich country or she came from a poor country. And the Prophet ﷺ commanded us to maintain them from what we eat. So there are a number of factors that influence how much we maintain them. If there is a divorce between a husband and wife, and in certain circumstances the husband has to maintain the wife even after the divorce, so they will differ. She will say, give me $1,000, and he would say, no, $500 are enough, so I cannot give you $1,000. If they go to the judge, what is the judge going to do? He will study the circumstances of the wife. He will study the circumstances of the people at that time in that place, and he will study the issue carefully, and he will come up with a conclusion that, for example, $700 are enough. Why? Because he said that you are not coming from a very rich family. The husband is not a very rich husband. You don't need that much amount of money. The circumstances in this particular country, you can live in that particular country with 700 pounds, and hence $700 will be enough for you, and you don't need more than that. See, this is a matter of implementing the hukum, the implementation of the hukum. The hukum was driven from the Quran and Sunnah. See, we have given some guidelines that help us to have the correct implementation. We cannot give all guidelines because this step, which is the third step, is related to the practice, is related to the implementation of what we have understood from Al-Quran and As-Sunnah. And that implementation is a practical issue. I hope that the matter is clear. Now, I would like to conclude by mentioning something regarding the implementation. This thing is very important. If we differ in the first step, then that difference between us takes a certain level. If we differ about the authenticity of Al-Quran, this is a major difference between us. And hence, if some people reject certain parts of Al-Quran, they are considered to be kafir. If we differ on the Sunnah, and some people reject part of the Sunnah, or they don't consider Sunnah as a source of legislation, they are considered to be out of the fold of Islam, and they are considered to be kafir. Now, if we differ on the second step, which is what? Which is the meanings of the Quran and Sunnah. Can we say that the person is rejecting the Quran or the person is rejecting the Sunnah? No, we can't say that. We have to be careful, brothers and sisters. So, differences on the first step are not like differences on the second step. Differing on the meanings of Al-Quran is not like differing on Al-Quran itself. Rejecting some meanings mentioned in Al-Quran are not considered to be rejecting in Al-Quran. Maybe the person is rejecting that specific meaning because he feels that the other meaning is stronger than this meaning, provided that we are referring to the valid meanings of Al-Quran. And again, we are not allowed to create, to invent a new meaning for Al-Quran or for As-Sunnah. I know that this is a very vast topic. We cannot explain this vast topic in this episode. It needs us so many episodes to explain this issue, which is introducing a new meaning for Al-Quran or introducing a new meaning in a Sunnah. But introducing a new meaning for any verse of Al-Quran or introducing a new meaning for any verse of a Sunnah is like introducing a new hukum. And we have seen that introducing a new hukum that goes against what we have inherited from our previous scholars is considered to be something rejected, and we are not allowed to do that. So, if someone disagrees with us on the second step, which is the meaning of Al-Quran and As-Sunnah, his disagreement with us is not similar to the disagreement between us and the person who is rejecting part of Al-Quran or who is rejecting part of As-Sunnah. See, remember in the first a few episodes, we said one of the benefits that we are going to get from this discussion, which is the discussion related to the principles of understanding, is that we will be able to differentiate between the acceptable opinions and the rejected opinions. We will be able to know when can we tolerate which. So this is clear now. Now, the third step, the issue of implementation. If we differ on the implementation, this is less than differing on the meaning of Al-Quran, which in turn is less than differing on Al-Quran itself. And that's why having those steps and being able to differentiate on which step we differ is very useful for the unity of the Ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. It is very important for us to know who are with us and who went astray. Not only that, but it is very useful for us to know how to correct their mistakes, because correcting a mistake regarding the source itself is not correcting a mistake regarding the meaning of the source, is not like correcting a mistake regarding the implementation. Moreover, brothers and sisters, differing on implementation normally is considered to be a matter of ijtihad, and normally we should tolerate differences related to the implementation of what we understood. I hope that the matter is clear. Now, again, brothers and sisters, inshallah, we are going to produce, and maybe by the time this series have been aired, we have published this course in a study guide. And inshallah, once you see that study guide, you will benefit more because you will have the study guide in your hands. And again, brothers and sisters, this course or this series is not enough for all of us to be able to extract rulings from Al-Quran and the Sunnah, but it is enough, inshallah, for us to open the doors to have a systematic approach to understand Al-Quran and the Sunnah to a certain level, and it might be enough, inshallah, for us to understand how the scholars extracted those rulings from Al-Quran and the Sunnah. And once we are able to understand how scholars took these rulings from Al-Quran and As-Sunnah, and we understand the process behind that, we said that we will enjoy Al-Islam more, and we will be able to practice Al-Islam in a better way. We will be closer to Al-Quran and As-Sunnah. We will be closer to what Allah Jalla wa Ala has revealed, and we will be closer to the Wahy. And once we are closer to the Wahy, we become better Muslims. And this was the aim behind this series. Please, if there is any mistake, don't look at the mistake. Forgive me for any mistake. I was trying my best to present something that is fruitful for all the brothers and sisters watching this series. Please don't forget, Muslims, from your dua. I ask Allah Jalla wa Ala to guide us to the right path and to make us firm on the right path. وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. And this is the last episode in this series, the series of the principles of understanding Al-Islam.
Mm-hmm.